Welcome into another edition of What Barrie's Talking About from Barrie 360. I'm Dan Blakely. On this week's program, our final kick at the can for 2023, winter arrives. Will it be colder, milder, more snow, less snow? We get the goods from Environment Canada's chief meteorologist, David Phillips. The Barrie Colts head into the Christmas break with 12 wins, 16 losses, and an overtime loss. Can they pull it together in the new year? There's a new sheriff in the Midland area. We had a chance to chat with him about his take on policing, and it's the most critical time of the year for blood donations. Also the hardest time of the year to get people to donate. It's easy though. No matter where you are, we find out how. The conversation starts after this. With the exception of the last week or so of August and the beginning of September, we had a warm summer and we've had a warm fall. And there's this El Nino thing which could keep winter on the mild side. We get all the ins and outs from Environment Canada's chief meteorologist, David Phillips.
Going into the winter, we see a lot of residual heat, not only in the lakes and the rivers, but the land. We just can't keep any snow that comes. And of course, the temperatures have been up there. I mean, what we're seeing this, in the past week, temperatures that are anywhere from, 5 to 10 degrees warmer than normal. I mean, if you see precipitation in the forecast, it's more likely to be rain than snow or flurries. I mean, people are concerned about whether we get a right Christmas or not. So it's always something that, but you're right. I think the yo-yo, the back and forth, up and down is how we have described the fall, I think, in going into the early winter. And I think that's kind of like nature feeling its way out. And a lot of people are saying, well, this is El Nino. Either curse it or bless it, whatever your feeling is. Well, and I think there's a lot of El Nino in here. I mean, it was much earlier than we normally have seen it. It's a much larger water feature in the coasts of South America. It's a lot bigger. Water temperatures are very warm, so it's very much that. But you know what? It also is the fact that the Arctic is just not cooled off yet. I mean, winter can't come to Barrie until it comes to Tuktoyaktuk, and it's not winter up there yet. I've seen from October, November, and December, I've seen probably over 600 temperature records that have been broken in Canada from a warm temperature record. And how many cold records? None that I've counted. So it really is, stick a thermometer into Canada. It was a warm summer. It's been a warm fall. And that kind of gives you a clue as to what the winter might very well be. With El Nino aside, I mean, any kind of cold weather that comes from the Arctic is just kind of pushed away by tropical breezes and also by, Pacific winds. And now, there are some cold air. My gosh, I can tell you how cold it is in Siberia and parts of Europe and China. It's bone-chilling, punishingly cold. So we know the cold air is around. It just hasn't come on this side of the North Pole. And it may. I mean, I would dare say we haven't canceled winter. It's just we've certainly postponed it so far.
Well, and you and I have talked in the past, too. We can have a mild winter, but that sets us up for a little bit more snow than usual from lake effect, right?
Good point. A good point, Dan. You're right. I mean, those lakes are like, well, they're not hot tubs, but they're wide open. And certainly, if you're not a big fan of snow, you can always say, well, February comes and the ice, it freezes over and it cuts off that source of moisture. But when you have this kind of a going into winter, and then what we're saying is it looks like it is going to be milder than normal at the beginning, then the ice is going to take a while to freeze over, and that what it leaves you is more vulnerable to lake effect. It's not going to be cut off. It could be lake effect snowing in April, where normally it would be long gone. There'd be nothing there in March, and you get snow still, but these are from storms in Texas and Oklahoma that come northward, or Alberta Clippers, and they come through and dump some snow, but not lake effect. But we still, and that's why we often get a lot of lake effect at this time of the year. I mean, we look at the snowfall so far, it might surprise you. We've had about 55 centimeters of snow. You look out there across the landscape in Barrie and Collingwood and Orillia. I mean, you don't see a lot of snow because it's being assaulted by the warm temperatures and the rain and that. But still, it's about less than normal. It's only about 75% of what you normally get. We typically would have had 75 centimeters of snow by this time. And it shows you that a lot of that is very much lake effect because of the fact that the lakes are warm, and any kind of cool air that comes across is going to turn that lake effect snow engine on. So we still have that to come. It just is the fact that we haven't had much doesn't really mean that we're not going to get it. We're always going to be vulnerable to the lake effect in this area, but the temperature-wise, boy, I mean, it's just hard to say where this cold air is going to come from. And if it does come, Dan, typically what we find in a winter like this, and I go back to the last El Nino year we had, winter was 2015-16. We had about 80% of our normal snowfall. We had 6 days that the temperature was below minus 20. We normally would get 12 of those. We had 6 months from really from November right through to March or April that were warmer than normal. Overall, we saved money on our home heating bills, but hey, it wasn't necessarily great for recreation, for the snowmobilers, the ice fishers who really depend on winter. And that is, I mean, there are some people who just think I'd rather migrate or hibernate because of the winter, but some people really enjoy it and embrace it, and it's good for the economy in our area. So, I hope that winter comes, but I think that when we see it, it's not going to be long drawn out. It's going to be, you might get some cold Arctic air, and then those Pacific breezes will blow across and push that Arctic air back up. So I think that's the kind of, what you see often in weather is what you get. And I think what we've seen is the personality of winter, and that's what we're headed to. Now, our models are saying for December, January, and February, we think it will be milder than normal. Not canceled winter, but milder than normal. Snowfall, as I say, is always tough to get right in this area. Sometimes it could mean less snow out west, but sometimes it can mean more snow here because of the lake effect. So anyways, that is really what our models are suggesting. Not a tough, punishing kind of a winter, but some winter. And so I think people, if they love winter, they can't procrastinate. If the ice is safe and you can go out there on it, well then don't wait around for Thursday to come. Just go now, like type of thing. And but we still have a long ways to go. I mean, there's no ice that I've seen, and it will certainly not be until well into January that we begin to see some ice cover.
Environment Canada's David Phillips, who, by the way, has pretty much nailed every season for the last 2 or 3 years. There's a demand for blood products year-round, but it seems to increase this time of year at a time when donations are down. People are busy, they're on the move, but there are opportunities to continue giving. Cheryl Russell, Community Development Manager for Canadian Blood Services in Barrie, is with Barrie 360's Will Konken.
All year round, it's good to donate blood, but seems like with the holidays, it's always a time of giving. So why is it important to do it right now?
Well, it's typically more challenging to collect blood during the last 2 weeks of December, but that is when donations are especially needed. With the timing of statutory holidays, regular collections, schedules are interrupted. So it is important that every available appointment is filled on the days when donation centers are open. And the donation specifically here in Barrie is 231 Bayview Drive. And you just go to blood.ca and easy peasy, sign up and book to donate this month.
Awesome. Maybe kind of give me a rundown. So I sign up for an appointment, then kind of what happens? What's the breakdown?
Yeah, so often when I'm out in the field and I'm at events, I often will have people say, I just don't know what to do. I just don't know how to start the process. It is so simple. Either by going to blood.ca or downloading the Give Blood app, you simply register. And nowadays, everything you have to register, create a password, it's our life, right? But once you're past that point, and once you are now a member of the Canada's Lifeline, it is the easiest thing, because all you simply do is hit a button called Book Now, and it'll ask, where do you want to book? Where do you want to donate? Oh, I live in Barrie. So you punch in Barrie, and there you go. It'll pop up with the date and times that are available. And right now here in Barrie, we have over 680 appointments that that are needed to be filled between now and January 6th.
And then where does my blood, or whoever's registering for, where does it go to? Who is it helping?
Well, it makes all the difference to patients in need across Ontario, depending on what hospitals require. So each hospital has certain blood types that they require on a regular basis. They have an inventory that they must keep up for the demand. And so, for instance, if I donated in the summer, which I did, my donation would possibly go to RVH right here in Barrie. But if RVH had good inventory at that time, maybe my blood donation went to somewhere in Toronto. So it's all about matching the demand of where the blood is needed, but it is needed constantly because, as we say in our industry, a blood donation is like a bag of milk. It has a shelf life. So that's why we continually ask over and over and over again, because we need regular donors to donate regularly all the time.
And you touched on it, but maybe talk about it again. What are those specifics again? How many spots need to be filled in, and then the dated times?
Yes, so for sure, here in Barrie, between now and January 6th, we have 680 appointments that need to be filled at the Barrie Centre, the permanent Barrie Centre, 231 Bayview Drive. But I stress that if you're leaving the area and you still want to make a difference and donate joy over the holiday season and make a difference to a patient in need, there are so many clinics and mobiles throughout the area, and 3 specifically in the local area to be specific. Bracebridge on December 24th needs some help, Parry Sound on December 29th, and Mount Forest on January 2nd. Here in Barrie, the worst day that we're struggling with is, of course, Tuesday, December 26th. So I ask everyone in Barrie, go out, do your shop, and line up in those crazy lineups, drink lots of water, have a good lunch, and then please come in and donate blood on December 26th.
I think a cool aspect about that is creating options for people, and those mobile clinics, they're great.
Yeah, they're all over Ontario and even across Canada. If you're flying out to BC to visit family, there are clinics, there are mobiles. All you have to do is go to blood.ca, punch in where you want to donate, and it'll tell you all the clinics and mobiles that are close by.
And then I think I saw that there was the Give Blood app as well. And that also helps with sort of registration. Yeah, touch on that a little bit.
Absolutely. It is free, for one. And yes, we all get tired of adding apps on our phone, but it is such an amazing app because at the end of the day, after you've donated, it'll tell you your blood type. It tells you when you're eligible to donate next. It tells you your hemoglobin levels, your bleed time, like lots of fun stats about you personally. It's a great app. And just recently, I have engaged a lot of high school students and high schools to come on board and do donation days. And so they, because of their youth, being the youth, the Give Blood app is an amazing tool for the youth to find it very simple, book in, donate, and be reminded on the app when to donate again. So it's great tool.
And then where can people find more information?
Blood.ca is the best place to go for information. Specifically right now, we've had an amazing a situation that has happened at Canadian Blood Services, which many have probably heard about, and that is specifically the mad cow disease restrictions that was on donations for years. And as of last Monday, so many people are now able to donate. So don't count yourself out. Maybe you once thought you couldn't donate, or at some point you couldn't donate, but now those eligibility restrictions have changed. So please go to blood.ca, go to the ABCs of eligibility, do the eligibility quiz, and be sure, because maybe you can donate, and we need to find you, and you need to come donate if you can. So
we really appreciate your time today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me and the opportunity to talk about this important need for blood donations here in Barrie.
What Barrie's Talking About is a weekly podcast featuring the best Barrie and Simcoe County have to offer and more. We're going to take a break next week, but that'll give you a chance to catch up on any episodes you might have missed. You know, you can make it easy to keep caught up by subscribing to What Barrie's Talking About through any podcast distributor. Still to come on What Barrie's Talking About, a look at the Barrie Colts season thus far and what may be coming in 2024, and we meet the new detachment commander for the OPP in Southern Georgian Bay. Now this.
It's cool to care.
It's a well-known fact blood transfusion saves lives.
It's also a well-known fact that the world relies on voluntary unpaid donations to fill the need for blood. The need for blood never ends. Canadian Blood Services in Barrie is calling on you to help save a life. Please consider donating today. Appointments are mandatory and must be booked in advance. Book today at blood.ca through the Give Blood app or by calling 1-888-2-DONATE.
Cool to Care is brought to you by the Peggy Hill team, keeping it real all the way to sold. Reach out now at peggyhill.com.
It's Cool to Care with 107.5 Cool FM.
This is What Barrie's Talking About from Barrie 360. I'm Dan Blakely. There's a new face to policing in the Midland area with the arrival of a new district commander for Southern Georgian Bay region, Inspector Todd Pittman. He chats up our Ian McLennan about how policing has changed since he first started and his plans for the region.
For somebody who's not familiar, they've probably heard the word detachment commander. How would you describe the role that you have in that position?
Interesting part about detachment commanders in the OPP, it's almost like we're like the chief of police up in office. So, for example, we have just under 100 members here in Southern Georgian Bay Detachment. For a lot of municipal police services, those would be chiefs of police that would oversee that. And I'm not equating myself to a chief. I'm an inspector. However, really, it's how the detachment runs. Is I oversee all detachment operations, including staffing and service to our community within the Southern Georgian Bay Detachment area. So I'm the person that's in charge of this area for policing services.
Have you been a detachment commander previous at other areas of the province with the OPP?
No, this is the first one. I've held many other positions, but not as a detachment commander, and I'm learning daily.
And what is that learning curve like, and what are you learning, and who do you learn from?
I think that some of the best learning that I get comes from the members themselves, comes from the people that do the job daily. I think that people that do jobs and do them daily know the jobs best. They also are aware of what is needed in that job. They also, and in our case for police, they're also very aware of what the community needs are because they're engaging with the community daily. So I get a lot of my information from our members that are in community daily and interacting. And when it comes from a learning curve, it has been a steep learning curve. Much of my career has been specialized, and by specialized, I mean with our emergency response team, with our canine unit. I was the manager in the emergency management unit for the OPP that oversee business continuity and things like that for all of our offices right across the province. So I came from that background. So stepping into a detachment commander role where you're very engaged with community, very engaged with community needs, other partners is something new to me. It's and I'm, to be honest, I'm surprised with how busy it is. It's a very busy job, but it's one that I welcome and I'm happy to be doing.
How much community engagement do you feel you have to do? I mean, you've got your frontline officers out walking the beat in the cruiser and interacting. How much do you want to do in terms of being visible too when you have a lot on your plate?
Absolutely. I have a lot of administrative duties in running this detachment. And with that too, I mean, with just under 100 employees here, I also have a lot of duties with respect to our members, right? And with running the office and making sure that our members are healthy and that they're well. I do like the ability to get out and engage in the community. I have been out, so through the summer I've been here. I've done traffic enforcement, albeit it's not one of my primary functions. At times, people's driving behavior will draw your attention, so I'm still a police officer, so I'll deal with that. I'd like to get out, though, on foot patrol. I find that some of the best face-to-face time with our community members is in a non-enforcement capacity, where I could get out, talk to them about what they're seeing the needs of the community are, what they think that the problems are, and really listen to them and hear their perspectives on it. It's something I enjoy doing. I find that a lot of my community engagement is also with our police services board. So we have 5 police services boards right now within this detachment area. So I engage with them on a lot of the issues in the communities and on some of the solutions and maybe approaches that we could take towards community well-being. So I engage in community interaction in many different ways, I guess I should say.
Well, you have a wide swath of territory as well, some of it with towns and others very rural, and then seasonal too. I'm just wondering, I mean, every detachment has their own challenges, their own demographics. What stands out for you about Southern Georgian Bay OPP, the needs or priorities that you want to add and what you're hearing from Frontline?
So we're unique here. We have quite a bit of waterway in this detachment area. We're one of the detachments that's very fortunate to have a full-time marine unit, and I think it's because all of our communities are in some way touching the water. So that is one of the key priorities and key focuses, is making sure that we keep up that sustainable marine presence. There, we have a lot of summer population, so seasonal population, that come and they live on the islands in their seasonal cottages. So we see a large influx. So I think a focus there is extremely important. It's somewhat unique because not every detachment area has that. When I see community need, I think relatively speaking, traffic safety is probably one of the biggest things that I hear repeatedly here. Ensuring that we have proactive, ongoing enforcement on our highways. And it's really about keeping our roads safe. It's not about writing tickets. It's not about charging people. It's about getting people to slow down, getting people to put their phones down, and getting people to pay attention to what it is that they're doing out there. We lose more people right across this country annually to traffic fatalities than we do of any other cause of death. So I think that active traffic safety enforcement is very important here. We do have speeding problems. And I think that the other big focus, and really has been something that I've spoke about several times this summer, is engaging with our population that are involved with addictions. We have a large mental health, calls for service here, if I could put it that way. I've heard that we have 3 to 5 times the mental health occurrences here locally than they do elsewhere in the province. And on top of that, we are seeing an increasing homeless population. So while many of those things aren't necessarily a police focus by which, the police are going to walk in and solve an addictions issue or a mental health issue, I think that we do have a role to play and a function to play in society, and working with our partners to see how we can meet these people that are homeless and on the streets, because that's not a crime. So how can we work with them to get to the root causes of the problems to help them get back into society and reintegrated? And that's something that I'm very interested in. I'm passionate about it, albeit, like I said, it's not really a police role. I think that we do have a part to play, and I'm happy to engage with a lot of our community providers to help come up with some approaches to that.
All right, Inspector, I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, sir. It was a pleasure speaking with you today.
Not been a great first half for the Barrie Colts, more than a few struggles. Here again is Will Konken with Colts writer and broadcaster Gene Pereira.
Not the best way to end things before a break. 2 losses for the Colts, 5-2 against the Brantford Bulldogs, and fell 4-3 in overtime to the Kitchener Rangers. Same issues with penalties and specialty teams in the Bulldog game, but at least it was an exciting one against the Rangers. We're down in the third, but a good pep talk by Captain Connor Punnett. Take us through those 2, Gene.
Yeah, the loss in Brantford was kind of the same old story for the Barrie Colts. Specialty teams issues with a difference in that contest Friday night, and the Colts returned home before their last game before the Christmas break against the league's top team in Kitchener, and the Rangers are missing a couple of players away at Worlds, but the Colts as well, with Chalet and Hillebrand off to World camps. It was kind of a game that had 2 kind of different looks for the Barrie Colts. I mean, through 40 minutes, just 11 shots offensively. You really weren't generating a lot of offense. They were down 3-0 entering the third period. And, in between the second intermission, the players, Connor Punnett stood up in the room, the Colts captain, and, the talk was basically that this was the last period before the Christmas break. The fans had come out and they, wanted to give them a strong finish and, for coming out and show their appreciation, though, even though they were tired. It's been kind of a long stretch. They're looking forward to getting back to their families. And Barrie got an early goal from Ty York, and it just really built from there. They just kind of took over and, ended up tying the hockey game. York with a couple of goals. And, it was a big point, unfortunately, for the Colts. Not even a minute into the overtime, Matthew Sopp, an outstanding individual play where he kind of walked around the defenseman and made a move on Ben West. Really pretty goal, but, a tough ending to what had been an outstanding third period for Barrie and their comeback. And, credit to the young team for coming back and earning a valuable point for a team that's fighting for a playoff spot.
Yeah, we're just about 30 games into the season. Crucial time for the Colts, and they have some big decisions to make on which direction they're headed. But let's look back a little bit. What's your take on this first chunk of the season, and maybe who are some of those players you've liked?
Yeah, I think, obviously there's disappointment. I think this is a Barrie team that expected to, be right kind of in the middle of that pack. And you look at the Eastern Conference, it's really log-jammed, and I think they expected to be right in that hunt. But, injuries have really played a big role. Losing Bo Akey to solar surgery was a huge loss. Jacob Frasca's missed most of the first half with a hip issue. The good thing he's going to be back, but, the trade deadline around the corner. So, injuries have certainly been a part. But, two guys that kind of stand out to me, as great stories. One is in goal with Sam Hillebrand, the young goalie, the rookie goaltender, has played really well, just outstanding. And, for a team that with Ben West being overager, Thornton, if he returns being an overager, you look who's going to be the next guy. And Hillebrand has really shown that he can be the guy that carries the load, and he's earned a spot with the U.S. World Junior team. And, he's just been outstanding, just a sound goaltender and keeps you in hockey games. And you look on the other guy is Jack Browdy, the defenseman. This guy that I didn't know a lot about him coming in, but he's just been outstanding. Just one of those guys that can play in all situations. A lot of confidence for a young defender, plays with a physical edge, and as well as just good moving the puck, rushing the puck. He's a guy that I think is going to be a big part of that blue line in the future, and the Colts are excited about. So, two guys there. And obviously, we look here and we come back from the Christmas break with that December 28th game against Sudbury. There's only a few days before the January 10th trade deadline, and that things are already starting to heat up. I know Marty Williamson said he's fielded some calls, and there's no doubt that this is a Colts team that's going to be looking at the future of the deadline, and that means guys like Connor Punnett and Jacob Frasca, are going to be front and center as far as, trade talks. And Anson Thornton, who is a good possibility, he returns. He's kind of had an injury-plagued first half up in the AHL with Tucson, the Coyotes farm team, so there's a good chance that maybe he comes back, and if he does, then I expect that if there's interest there, Barrie will look to the future. So, it's a tough go. It's a team that's looking to still make a playoffs, get into the playoffs, but I think they're going to be probably a lot younger once that January 10th trade deadline passes.
Like you were saying, the Colts get a bit of a rest. They're back on December 28th when they host the Wolves. And I think that's all we have for now, and we'll talk to you again then. Till next time, Gene.
Thanks, Will.
And that's our program for this week. Thanks to Ian and Will for their input, to Matt Ladder for his technical expertise, and to you for listening. If you like what you've heard, please subscribe to What Barrie's Talking About, rate it, review it. You can also keep up with What Barrie's Talking About on X at Barrie360, on our website, Barrie360.com. Some of you can still see us on Facebook, and there's our daily Kickstart podcast available from any streaming service and on our website. I'm Dan Blakely. We're off next week. Hope you'll join us again in the new year.